that this original blueprint is being reactivated through the land, I predominantly saw that as a reconnection between inner earth nodes and some on the surface and galactic frequencies coming down. So it was a bridging of those. Welcome to Activations with JJ. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the Lemurian blueprint that is being reactivated on the planet, as well as preparing for additional galactic templates through embracing non-attachment. These are some very hot topics at the moment, and I can't wait to get right into them with you. So let's get going. Greetings and welcome to this episode of Activations with JJ. I should call this kind of a mid-month energy update, but it's a little past the middle of the month, and you will have to pardon me because I was on a trip. I was on the other side of the world enjoying the Southern Hemisphere in Australia and New Zealand, and it was incredible. It was actually the first time that I've been to Australia and the second time that I've been to New Zealand. And I really enjoyed connecting with the land, connecting with the people, the human beings that I got to co-create with there. And I'll be sharing a little bit about that because it is connected to what we're talking about today. But yeah, let's just dive right in. How is everybody feeling? Just take a moment, do a little inventory, take a deep breath. Just settling in today as we open ourselves to these topics. And as I've mentioned in some previous podcasts over the last couple of months, I feel more and more like this podcast style is like a combination between a regular, just informational podcast, an activation, and a calibration. And so I've just been weaving together everything that comes through for me in a very, very organic way. So we'll just go with the flow, shall we? Starting off, I would love to talk a little bit about the Lemurian templates that were coming through the Lemurian blueprint energy, especially in Australia and New Zealand. I feel it was very potent there. Now, I was in the Byron Bay, so that's the east coast, northeast coast of Australia, as well as a couple of different places in New Zealand, both the North Island and the South Island. And Lemurian energy was coming through even before I went on my trip. It was actually coming through as Pleiadian star mothers, who are Lemurian star mothers, and who assisted with the creation of those blueprints. As I was sitting in a workshop in New Zealand, I actually felt drawn to explain a little bit more about this. So if this is not a familiar thing to you and you haven't listened to some of my other podcasts a little bit more about Lemuria, especially last year, because we had our new Golden Age of Lemuria conference in Kauai. You probably heard me talk a lot about that then, but if you're new, Lemuria, of course, is something that a lot of channelers talk about. Oftentimes, it is referred to as the land of Mu, so just those two letters, M-U. And it was essentially a frequency more than an era of Earth's history. Typically, when my guides come through and our collective higher selves and those who are holding the records of Gaia as far as her Akash goes, I really am feeling their reminders that it's outside of time and space that these things play out. So when we try to put it into linear history and we try to give it 10,000 years AD or 20,000 AD or whenever it is, they sort of chuckle because essentially we're dealing with parallel frequencies that Earth has existed in. And I've been talking about this for a while, that we are weaving together all of the golden timelines of Gaia during this convergence period, which is still occurring, as many of you are probably feeling. I did mention in a reel a few weeks ago that the 1010 portal actually was very significant. The numbers ones and zeros have been coming through for me as part of our original template. And yes, you can see The synchronicity between that and our literally computer coding is based on the zeros and ones. It's all connected. But what I'd love to share with you is the fact that on the 1010 portal, I had a little object lesson come through. And I was shown the visual of a zipper zipping up. And this was actually a couple days before the 1010 portal, but it's related. And one side of the zipper was black and the other side of the zipper was white. And it was being zipped up. And then I was kind of shown a multidimensional version of that. So it was like, oh, there's just two. But it was like, no, there's more than two. And this is that convergence, essentially, bringing the both sides, I guess you could say, of duality into unity consciousness. But it's more than both sides. It's multidimensional sides. And like I said, right before the 1010 portal, I had another object lesson where I was zipping up my purse and the zipper stuck. And I knew it was significant. Normally when little things like that happen, about half the time, I'm like, what does this mean? Like, I don't live like thinking everything is a sign, even though it really is actually. But that time it was like big, loud and clear. This is a sign. This is connected to the zipper that you saw. And so what happened is I literally heard the word time lock. And I was told that there was a time lock put into place on the 1010 portal. And it had to do with the fact that everything that had converged up into that point was the zipper wasn't going up and down. I could just see that before that, this zipper was going up and down, and that was creating a lot of roller coaster for us. So it was solidifying what had collapsed up into that point. There was no going back and forth. It was done. And I was told that that would actually create a little more stability for us emotionally and physically and mentally and energetically, because I'm sure you know that we've been going through some ups and downs, or I don't think up and down is a great description, but some fluctuations in a sort of an intense way. And I've been talking about this for 2 months now. I don't think any of us knew that it would be going this long. But we're building muscle to be able to navigate that. And this time lock was put into place. So the zipper is still occurring. The convergence is still happening. The collapsing is still going on. But we hit that time lock on the 1010 portal, and it's going to create a little more of a foundation for us. Because if there was any word that I could use to describe this last little while, it would be disorienting, from what I'm hearing from a lot of people. So back to the idea of this zeros and ones and the templates and this Lemurian blueprint. I really did feel that a lot of the grid work I did while I was in Australia and New Zealand allowed me to see that this original blueprint is being reactivated through the land. I predominantly saw that as a reconnection between inner earth nodes, and some on the surface, and galactic frequencies coming down. So it was a bridging of those. And more often than not, what's happening is we, as embodied humans, are actually playing a very significant role in reconnecting those energy points and that template. We are bridging the Earth template back to the galactic template, which is exactly how it was during the time of Lemuria. Everything was very connected. And that's the word that just keeps coming through over and over again is reconnection, reconnection, reconnection. So I love that it's becoming very simple. They're trying to make it, my guys, my higher self, they're like, let's make this very simple for everybody. It's a reconnection. So I want you to just sit with that idea and that concept here and take a deep breath, because as above, so below. Things are being reconnected on a global scale, but they're also being reconnected in your body in order to allow for this plasmic energy to flow everywhere through the grids of Gaia, through your own physical body, through your quantum field. And this idea of non-attachment came forward for the October energy update. And I referred to Wayne Dyer, who is one of many teachers in the last 30, 40 years who have been bringing this back into the collective awareness, bringing back some of these ancient teachings, these very, very old teachings, and simple, again, very simple. Non-attachment is the idea of not anchoring into these fleeting concepts, ideas, beliefs, relationships, so that we can allow ourselves to be free-flowing and surrender to, I would say, our original state of innocence. And that's extremely prominent for me right now because I'm in the middle of sacred initiation journey. Actually, we just started a new cohort of sacred initiation journey, restoring the original divine blueprints, purity and innocence. And with non-attachment, everything just kind of falls away and reveals what you already are. And that original template of Gaia really is what she already is, but it's been clouded by different programming and different kinds of attachment. We are a reflection of that. There's something really interesting happening with grid work too, where I have a friend who's been working with buildings, actual buildings that are attached to different organizations and different frequencies that are lower vibrational. And they're assisting buildings in becoming sovereign. These places, they could be predominantly religious buildings, religious structures, and just being called to connect with these and allow them to step outside and I'll actually be no longer be attached, like supporting them through non-attachment. Whew, interesting, isn't it? And so just taking a moment right now, you might even want to jot down a few notes, because this idea of non-attachment is, I think, why we're feeling disoriented, because we're disconnecting from that which is outside of us, which has been sort of defining our identities, whether it's a job, a relationship, a belief system, and we're reconnecting to ourselves, which in the end, we're already connected there. So the idea of not being connected is sort of an illusion, but we're releasing the illusion that we're not connected to ourselves, and we're coming back to ourselves, to our identity as it is organically there, just waiting for us to see it again. It feels like there's more energy coming through than just my words. So again, I'm just holding space. And this original template, which is the foundation of our golden timelines converging, is absolutely already there. Many people talk about the new earth is already there. The new earth already exists. It is not something we need to get to. So it's really about shedding and releasing any and all programming. I can feel it happening just as I'm talking. That's why I paused. Veils of forgetting. That's where I feel like multidimensional soul integration comes in, because it absolutely is allowing a person to remember what's already been experienced, what's already there, gifts, how it feels to be so tuned in to that purity of your original template. This crystalline energy, this Christ consciousness. And And as we call into our awareness a remembrance of how that feels, looks, smells, all of the senses, we're very gracefully opening ourselves to, again, what already is, to the new earth that already is. And I talked about this about a month ago. Even the word new earth isn't totally accurate. You may need to use whatever word feels good for you, because words carry so much programming. Whatever word. Sometimes the word pure also is difficult for people because of religious programming. So if there's another word, original, organic, divine, and not only are we being supported within, we are being supported without. As within, so without. And as above, so below. So going back to the reconnecting that I mentioned earlier is happening at all levels and in all scales. It's absolutely happening as we reactivate. And it's so interesting that the inner earth came forward for us as a theme of the 8/8 Mount Shasta conference, because that inner earth is there. And now I'm feeling these many galactic templates coming down that I mentioned in October. We are preparing to receive collectively. One by one, many of us are gaining a remembrance, reactivating remembrance of our galactic frequencies. And this is beyond actual conscious memories of all those lives. Because to be completely honest with you, that would be a little bit distracting and overwhelming if remembrance involved us needing to be consciously aware of every life and every detail. And I try to explain that to people, even with multidimensional soul integration. Yes, there is a degree of remembrance, of conscious remembrance of, oh, it was in the Pleiades, or you were an Arcturian, or whatever it is. But this is more about cellular and DNA level remembrance. Because I do think some people are not understanding what cosmic remembrance is about, and they're feeling like that's a distraction because we're thinking of it as a conscious remembrance. And I recently felt drawn to really lean into the cosmic remembrance piece, but I needed to define it better, as in my role, my purpose is to activate cosmic remembrance or help people activate their own cosmic remembrance. And that, of course, is something I do in a lot of different ways through my channeled messages and predominantly through light language. But let me share with you experience I had in New Zealand. I was at Castle Hill, and this is on the South Island near Christchurch, New Zealand. This is actually where they filmed parts of the Chronicles of Narnia movie with Aslan and that battle scene. There are some very large rocks, and I have a lot to say about it. I'll be sharing with my starseed community a real detailed, recap of that. So be sure to join us if you are thinking about coming into all of these monthly gatherings that we have. The starseed community is there for you. This is my monthly membership, and we would love to have you there. But in that community, I'll be sharing more detailed sort of recap of my travels. But this little tiny story is about multidimensional soul integration. There are several spots on and in the rocks where it's literally like a seat. It's like you're literally sitting in a spaceship or in a pod, or I can't even describe it very well, but it's very inviting to just sit down. And there was this one spot a friend of mine and I walked over to and immediately felt drawn to just lay down. And so he went first and then I went, and I immediately felt, and this just came, you probably wonder how I can, how does this come to pass? Like, how do I experience it? Let me tell you, I just heard in my clear audience, you're integrating multiple lives right now, multiple galactic lives. And I could feel layers and scenes flashing before my eyes, but I couldn't tell you even right now all of those lifetimes because there were so many. But I could feel what I'm talking about, which is that some of us are individually integrating these lifetimes, activating these lifetimes and these templates in preparation and as a priming for and calibration for the entire collective to have the same. And for Gaia to receive all of her galactic multidimensional. Yeah, okay, here's what's coming in. I'm like, wait a minute, what? So she has had other incarnations. Just like us, as above, so below. This celestial incarnation, well, this incarnation right now is as an earth, as a celestial body, but she's had other incarnations. And we're all experiencing this simultaneously at different scales, at different levels. And then you'll have to think about that one. It's part of her ascension process too, just like it's part of ours. She's having lots of templates restored. So remembrance, reconnecting, becoming that bridge so that we can really anchor in the galactic templates and as above, so below. Anchor them below and above. There's a lot of information coming through energetically right now, just between the words. So allowing yourself to receive if that feels in alignment for you. I feel a lot of Star Mother energy coming forward into our field. It doesn't matter that we're all listening to this at a different time. I can still feel us all here because outside of time and space, we're all just listening right now. So Pleiadian star mothers, Lemurian star mothers coming forward. One of the things that happened at a workshop I did in New Zealand was before we could do anything else, I had to set aside at least 30 minutes. We were releasing a fear of remembrance. This came forward last year too. I actually did an entire offering that was revolving around it's safe to remember. So if there was a mantra that you could sort of anchor in right now, would be it's safe to remember. It's safe to remember. This is the timeline collapsing. It's emerging in an integration. It's all part, if you zoom out, it's all part of this bigger picture that's happening during this convergence. And if you haven't already had a chance to listen to the Andromedan throat chakra activation I did just a few days ago, I uploaded to YouTube. I highly recommend that you do, because even as I'm talking right now, I can feel a lot of throat chakra energy coming forward. It feels like a lot of that clearing is coming through throat. And I think that's why I feel drawn to lean into light language. I've even decided to offer Light Language Quantum Leap and Light Language Group Mentorship again in November. This is the first time I've ever done that. Normally, I only offer it 2 times a year, like fall and spring. But I felt like I offered it in September, and I feel like I need to offer it again in November. And I think it's because so much of this is happening through throat chakra. So just an invitation to kind of tune into that and see what that means for you. I'm sitting here clearing my throat. I was like, everybody clear your throat together. But I think we're really just kind of coming to a close here and landing with all of the weaving together of that information. Take some time to journal. I've been recommending this over the last little while. Take some time to journal, maybe even re-listen just with this playing in the background, and do some automatic writing, because I feel that things will come up for you. During this workshop I did in New Zealand, again, I was having a lot of journaling happen. In fact, I did one in Australia and we were journaling. There's a lot of galactic symbols that as you write them on the paper and view them, they will activate you. So you're anchoring them on the paper, but just kind of play like your inner child plays and just doodle and see, because things are coming forward. You're going to be integrating all this galactic energy. Well, it's really reactivating remembrance of multidimensional parts of yourself. Even the word galactic isn't always the right word, but it's essentially all of your multidimensionality. But your multidimensionality may want to be expressed through voice or through writing or through your hands. That's where light language comes in to make all of this convergence so much more comfortable for you. Physically comfortable, energetically comfortable. So that's kind of my final piece of advice, is really considering how you can integrate and incorporate that in your everyday life. All right, my friends, here we are at the tail end. And I just want to send you so much love. And from the Lemurian and Pleiadian star mothers, also sending you so much love. And I'm reminding you that I am you and you are me and we are we. Until next time.